rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Breaking news. That's right, breaking news. 3 Chevy, longtime Whiskey Warrior P1, found out today he actually has a heart. Sorry, 3 Chevy, had to do it. Oh my gosh, man. All of a sudden over the weekend, it's like the floodgates opened and we had a whole bunch of news come out, some revelations come out. And I'm not talking about 3 Chevy's heart. I'm not talking about 3 Chevy's heart, but let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. So first, Amy Jean Viner. Amy Jean Viner is up on the deck for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please remove your hats. Well, please stand, remove your hats if you're wearing one like me. And of course, place your hand over your heart and follow along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And of course, I thank you, Amy, for providing us with that fantastic rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge, if you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, please, all you have to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, reciting the pledge in your style. You don't have to be too performative with it, but do so, and then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email, and then send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, folks, tonight's headline sponsor is, if I could actually get my act together. Here we go. TheFlagShirt.com. I'm wearing one of their wonderful flag colored, yes, it is a representation of the U.S. flag that is on a men's cotton polo. That's what I'm wearing right here, right now. Go to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles. And what's really great is they have the Memorial Day sale. That's right, Memorial Day is coming up at the end of the month. They have the Memorial Day sale, $15 off when you spend $75 at theflagshirt.com. Use code MEM, MEM 15. That's MEM15 in the promo code box at checkout to take advantage of that $15 off order. But I know not everybody can do $75 worth of gear, which, by the way, they also keep that free shipping offer, $75 or more of ordered product, and they will give you free shipping. But I know not everybody can do that. So what I do is I have a special offer for you if you don't take advantage of either one of those two offers, or maybe actually you might be able to take advantage of the Memorial Day sale one and mine in combination. I'm not exactly sure. You can give that a try, but flagshirt.americanperspective.online is where you can go to get yourself a code that you can copy and paste in the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online to be presented with a promo code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order on American Perspective. That's right. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get that promo code to copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com to get yourself that $5 off. Go to theflagshirt.com right now, and don't forget they're on that Memorial Day sale, $15 off when you spend $75 by using code MEM15 in that same promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Like me. I'm patriotized. Most, if not all, of those. Well, I wear their shirts, I think, for the most part, pretty exclusively. Right now, I haven't worn anything since. It's been a little cold around here, so I don't get a chance to actually change out the shirts. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the top of the topic of the top of the topic of the top of the topic of the hour. I know, you think I got onto a little bit of a remix scenario there. No, that was on purpose. The now I can't even say it. Top topic of the hour, which is essentially that Joe Biden, over the weekend, the Joe Biden camp announced that the man has metastatic prostate cancer that has spread to his bone. Now, for those of you who don't really, may not understand the word metastatic is meaning that the cancer has spread to other parts of the body. Now, the thing about it is here, folks, is that prostate cancer is a very slow-moving cancer. That's why it is one of the more easily diagnosed cancers. It's also one of the most, reportedly, also one of the most treatable because it moves so slow. So the question that must come after all of this has to be considering the timing of this. Now, before I actually get into all of this, I just want to put this out there. I don't care who you are. I don't care necessarily if I love you, like you, dislike you, or even go so far as to I never want to see your ugly face ever again. I would never, ever, ever wish cancer on anybody. This is a devastating disease. Cancer by itself is a devastating disease. It's a devastating diagnosis. Now, all of that being said, there are some things that lean more toward the fact that the man, being 82 years old, okay, prostate cancer is one of the most, shall we say, diagnosed cancers in old folks. And by old, I mean like above 70 and stuff like that. In fact, most of the time when you're diagnosed with prostate cancer in particular, being that old, they generally are like, well, treatments, it might extend your life for maybe, a year or two, but realistically, your age is probably going to take you earlier than the cancer does. Okay? And so what a lot of people seem to be, and especially those on the left, because believe me, they all jumped on the bandwagon, and I got something for them a little bit later, but they jumped on the bandwagon and are saying, all these MAGA folks who are, saying bad things about Biden. Well, first of all, I didn't see very many MAGA, quote unquote, MAGA folks saying bad things about Biden, other than the fact that, unfortunately, he's got cancer, and, they didn't wish him death or anything else, but two things can be true at once. The first being the fact that, yes, he has cancer. And two, that he was a horrible human being. Did all kinds of corrupt and disgusting stuff, evil man. Yeah, both of those things can be true at once. And also, too, just because I dislike his politics, I dislike him as a person, does not necessarily mean that I mean ill will toward him for the rest of his life. I think I'm fairly certain, given the fact that they are just now talking this, the timing of this is so thought out. There is no way this man was in the VP's office for 8 years, then 4 years out, then 4 years as president. There is no way, with all the panels and everything else and the health care that a president gets, that he was not aware that his family was, well, his family may not have been aware, but that he and Jill were not aware of the fact that he likely had cancer. And in fact, there are several doctors that have come out and been like, yeah, it's highly unlikely that this popped on them at the last minute. They more than likely knew, meaning Jill at a minimum and Joe had a likelihood that they knew this all the way back into 2021 and decided to hold on to it. So here's the thing. The book came out. The Jake Tapper book comes out. Then you have, immediately following that, you have the Her tapes. The audio tapes that show that Joe was not in charge of his mental faculties for all of this. And now, all of a sudden, we have this, oh, you must be sorry for the Bidens because the Bidens, Joe has cancer. No, actually, I don't necessarily need to feel sorry for them. I mean, again, like I said, I don't necessarily wish that on him. But it just seems sort of coincidental and very, very time-laden that now, instead of everybody talking about the Her tapes and his dementia, the only thing that's being discussed is his cancer. And believe me, all of these leftist sycophantic morons running around on the socials, they're all like, oh my gosh, why would such a good man get cancer? How is it that a good man like this and all of the wonderful things that Joe Biden does, he got cancer? Well, first of all, let me tell you, cancer doesn't really care. Whether you're good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent, it doesn't make a difference. Okay? It doesn't make a difference. All of this stuff, unfortunately, cancer strikes everyone. It's just, it's going to happen to a lot of people. That the statistics are not on your side here. And by the way, Biden's office did mention that the cancer is hormone sensitive, which allows for an effective management. So they're probably going to be able to extend his life or as much as they can with some hormone treatments to get it done. But there are plenty of people, including a former Obama official who is Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, who is a key architect of Obamacare. He even said there's no way that this got developed in the last 100 days or 200 days. He knew. He's suggesting that he had it while he was president, this prostate cancer. And he probably had it in the start of his presidency back in 2021. Now, this just adds, honestly, all this does is add to the scandal that is the fact that we had a president in office who was essentially cognitively impaired, as well as now his health was a factor or could have been a factor. Now, what's interesting is you remember that trip that he took as he was on before the debate that he was on. He was on a re-election campaign tour, and he hit Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas police, and many people heard it on the scanners, they were very concerned about a health issue with Joe Biden that he had to cut that trip short. Now, the White House at the time claimed that it was COVID, claimed that it was symptoms of COVID and that he had a cold or whatever. But yeah, there's suggestions that it wasn't quite that it was a little more serious than that, and that there was even some people that were suggesting that Biden actually had some sort of a physical medical problem that caused him to be rushed to the hospital in some sort of an emergency. So again, this is just expanding what is essentially what I'm going to call the worst, or possibly the largest scandal, even greater than Watergate. Now, you got to think about this for a second. Yes, okay, Watergate, for those of you who were not alive then, or, well, I don't recall, well, let's see. I wasn't necessarily aware of what's going on with Watergate, but the Watergate scandal was essentially whether or not the president knew about the operatives going to break into the Democrat National Committee headquarters when they were in the Watergate building. And that pales in comparison to this particular scandal, not only from the standpoint of whether or not the man who was in the office had the cognitive ability to actually do the job, but also whether his other health was capable enough for him to do the job. And when you add that on top of his scandal with regards to the influence peddling scheme, and you add to that the cocaine found in the White House, and I mean, just the entire Biden administration is one big worse than Watergate scandal. I mean, you could even almost say that it's worth it to forget the idea that Obama may not have actually been born in the United States. Yeah. So, the point that I'm trying to make here is this is causing pretty much a complete stir, a complete workup of literally everything that Biden did during his presidency, including his last-minute pardons that he put at the end of his presidency, that he tried to get, send out and get put out by his presidency. And the House Republicans are planning to interview the staffers who actually controlled the auto pen during Biden's time in the White House, as rightly they should. Because when you put into effect the things like Joe Biden's cognitive decline, which started when he actually first took office in the beginning, I mean, realistically, and then, of course, his disastrous Trump debate, and then adding that to the whole, and also the her interviews, all of these things, folks, all of these things line up to one particular thing, that we had a president in the White House, a potential president in the White House, that literally had no idea what was going on around him, which brings into question whether or not the auto pen signings, which, by the way, are supposed to be done in front of the president and with his approval of what's being signed in order to make it legal. And so there's a lot of questions here, because the auto pen was used on just about everything, especially toward the end. of his presidency. And there's a lot of questions that revolve around him and his scandal-laden presidency that all should be taken that should all be taken into account. But anyway, well, another thing happened over the weekend, which, you know, I mean, let's just face it. The left is, they got all, you know, pious and mighty and incredulous about this entire situation. And especially like the Her tapes and so on and so forth, which, by the way, the Her tapes actually made things worse and made things look worse than the transcripts did. I mean, we pretty much knew what was said. We didn't know how it was said. Well, now we have a good idea as to how it was said, and it clearly shows that Biden was having some serious problems. Within his faculties, his mental faculties. Okay. So, but all of that being said, something else came out too, which I thought was actually pretty disgusting. However, given the fact of the person, the individual that posted this on social media, it doesn't really surprise me any. So, you remember James Comey? Okay. Or is it? Yeah, James Comey, not Comer, but Comey. He posted something on X, which has since been taken down. But let's just go ahead and let Maria Bartiromo and Kash Patel and a couple other people talk a little bit about it. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry.
Arrest Jim Comey after the former FBI director posted an image on social media suggesting a call to assassinate President Trump. Comey was interviewed by the Secret Service on Friday and is now facing a string of federal probes after he posted an image of a beach scene with seashells arranged in the numbers 8647, writing this: "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." The number 86 typically refers to elimination, and President Trump is, of course, the 47th president. After much public outcry on social media, Comey took down the post, claiming he was not aware that 86 refers to eliminating something.
Okay, hold up. I'm sorry, but how could you be the director of the FBI and not know that colloquialism? So, by the way, there was a little research done on 86 because a lot of people talk about like 86ing people from the bars, meaning getting them out of there and so on and so forth. While there is some discussion in terms of the relevant etymology of the terminology 86, it is generally referred to as the dimensions of a grave, meaning that you would dig a grave 8 feet long and 6 feet deep. And that's one of the most earliest interpretations of the term 86, which is part of the reason why so many people see 86 and they think of death. They think that you're looking to kill somebody. Well, this whole idea that, James Comey, who's a Trump-hating moron anyway, went ahead and posted that on social media. There's no reason why. There's no reason why he shouldn't expect to get a visit from the Secret Service. And he did. He got a visit from the Secret Service, and there's further investigations. Well, here, let me just go ahead and finish with Maria Bartiromo on this.
And that he opposes violence. There have already been 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life, which are still under investigation by the FBI. After the incident, new FBI Director Kash Patel told me he is in the middle of an active investigation into this matter. Days earlier, the two walked us through Comey's weaponization of the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, as well as some of the other important cases that they are working on, including drug and human trafficking cells operating in America today, the events of January 6th, and Jeffrey Epstein's death. But the director began by praising...
Okay, so she kind of gave an overview, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. But Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, the FBI director and deputy director, sat down with Maria Bartiromo and started talking about all kinds of different things. And it came out, and this, I got to say, so many people, if you question Dan Bongino's integrity on this, then honestly, you're going to be questioning everything that he has told you over so many years of his podcast. Now, many people who are close to Dan Bongino, including somebody that I'm sort of surprised about, Ben Shapiro, have all said that if Dan says that Epstein killed himself, Epstein killed himself. And again, there's nothing really to indicate any other issues. There are some suspicious circumstances surrounding it, don't get me wrong. But the thing about it is that Dan has looked at all the evidence now. He has been focusing on it. He has looked at the evidence collected, the crime scene photos, things probably that most people don't have access to. And he goes ahead and says that Epstein did kill himself. Okay, he did. Now, all of that being said, okay, that doesn't actually preclude the importance of the Epstein client list, which should be brought out and presented. But for whatever reason, they're kind of hanging off on that. And I don't know why. Other than what Pam Bondi has already told us, that they're attempting to dig through all of the information that they have with regards to this. But the thing about it is that Kash Patel on the show with Maria Bartiromo said, you asked in the beginning of how the FBI was weaponized. He said, well, the FBI hijacked the constitutional responsibility of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, and James Comey and others specifically decided what cases to prosecute and not prosecute. Don't believe me? Go to the videotape in the Hillary Clinton investigation. He said, we don't decide prosecutions, and neither does any agent or intel analyst. We have great partners under the Attorney General. We work with them and discuss the matter with them, but the prosecutorial decision is with them. And yes, you'll recall that when Hillary Clinton and Comey stood up and said that, hey, we're not going to prosecute. That's not his job as the FBI director. That would have been the Attorney General's job at the time to basically say, no, we're not going to prosecute Hillary Clinton for this crime, even though James Comey did admit that there was a strong possibility that crimes had been committed for all of that. So, yes, the FBI was weaponized. Yes, the FBI was taken away from its constitutional responsibility for doing the job, meaning investigate and let the evidence tell you what, and where, and everything where it happened. You know what happened, but that you don't make any assumptions or decisions or any kind of, partiality, opinion making. No, you deal with the facts, and that's it. You deal with the facts, and that's it. Now, Patel also revealed that the new agency leadership has uncovered additional details regarding the Crossfire Hurricane investigation into the alleged Russia ties to President Trump. Well, they are now working with Congress to put out information surrounding that whole thing. Patel said that that's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process, which they did, and lie to the federal or to the American public, they withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. He goes, it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency. Just give us about a week or two. So, yeah. Anyway, Patel accused the FBI predecessors of intentionally failing the American public by putting on what he called the biggest DC deception game ever seen. He claimed that the Bureau's reputation as a storied law enforcement agency was damaged by the likes of leaders like James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok, and accused them of weaponizing the FBI for political purposes, misleading both the courts and the American people. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong on all of that. Well, with the whole thing with James Comey and the 8647 message, John Brennan. Yes, John Brennan. Former, let's see, where was he? CIA director, former CIA director John Brennan came to Comey's defense. This is a Republicans pounce thing. Republicans pounce. Let's take a listen to what he's saying.
I know Jim Comey and worked very closely with him. Didn't always agree with some of the decisions he made, but I think he has unimpeachable integrity from the standpoint of his commitment to the rule of law. There's absolutely no way that Jim Comey would have been advocating any type of violence against a president of the United States, much less anyone. And it's very unfortunate that we are in an era right now where individuals seize upon something like this and just fuel the fires. As you pointed out, the term 86, is used in the restaurant context and has been put on, T-shirts against previous presidents. And throughout my career, I've never heard 86 be used for any type of intent to kill or assassinate someone. 86 is, you discard something, you just, ignore it, or it's not something that Jim Comey would have been advocating in terms of any type of violence. And
notice what he was trying to avoid saying there. Get rid of. Brennan, you're a disgraced former intel, whatever official. Yeah, of course you're going to go on MSNBC and try to defend Comey, but Comey definitely deserves an investigation as well as everything else. And by the way, I don't ever recall somebody telling me that, hey, I've got a shirt that says 86, 46. I mean, have you ever seen that? I've never seen a shirt that says 86, some president from somewhere. I'd like to know where this guy got his information in terms of that, because that is just freaking ridiculous. And, by the way, people seize on it, Brennan, because of the fact that it means exactly what it means. Yeah, there's no way that somebody in the law enforcement community did not ever hear that phrase utilized in the way that it was utilized. Yeah. So, anyway. What a bunch of moron. What a bunch of morons. Yeah. So, by the way, the piece that I got that video out of, it was posted in Red State. And the writer of the piece says, if you didn't know Comey was problematic, Brennan defending him would confirm it. Because I think it's safe to say that not many people are buying what Brennan is trying to sell here. Like I said, you'll notice that that he specifically missed or avoided the use of getting rid of somebody, because getting rid of somebody, depending in the context that it's used, could be determined to be a potential death threat. So, yeah. Anyway, I just don't, these people, I'm telling you. Well, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino also during that wonderful interview also mentioned the uncovering of the Russiagate probe, and they're also now claiming that accountability is coming. So Bartiromo was talking about, come on, director, with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. You mentioned former Director Comey, former FBI agent Peter Strzał, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. They're fine. There's been no accountability. Patel responded, it's a fair criticism. But what I'll tell people is that we weren't here in the FBI for the last 5 years when we had statutes of limitations that were still in play. So, yeah. He basically, of course, was expounding upon the fact that he and Bongino recently uncovered new documents and information that had been deliberately hidden by the FBI leadership. So anyway. Bongino, of course, chimed in and said, we've been here 2 months. To expect us to dig up what was an 8-year, maybe longer, politicized investigation at that time is not realistic. You want this done right, or you want it done quickly? So, yeah. Well, I'm waiting for a week or two. We'll see. Oh, I'm willing to wait a week or two for all of that. All right. Before I move on from all of these, let's go ahead and get a ad out of the way. Let's talk really quick about 1775 coffee. You still haven't tried it? Yeah, well, now this is your shot. This is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's only 1,000 units available. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. Yeah, well, that's not too tough. No offense, 1775, but I think you guys got to do a little bit better with that. Anyway, continuing on, it goes the smooth medium roast and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash after that. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting, and this to me is like the key component of this whole package. Okay. The gold spoon clip. That's right. The gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. Then they add to that a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. Then you have a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. And that would be perfect for your mother-in-law. Well, to show your mother-in-law. It's $175 worth of coffee and gear, all yours for just $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Anyway, go to 1775coffee.com / that's your question mark key, studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee/studio and grab your starter kit. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. That's 1775coffee.com/studio to get your starter kit today. All right. Well, that big, beautiful bill has cleared a hurdle. It finally got out of committee. Now, you remember on Saturday, I was telling you all about the whole committee thing and everything else. There was 20-16 was the vote and so on and so forth. Well, it turns out that 4 of the Republicans who were initially against the bill and helped killed it that first time, which again was the Friday vote, which resulted in the 16-21 vote, I should say, came out and decided to vote present, which basically, when you vote present, it basically means you're not voting for or against it. You're just saying that, yeah, I was here. And that was what they did in order to get the bill to go the second time. So the 4 Republicans, Chip Roy, Ralph Norman, Andrew Clyde, and Josh Breachine, I think that's how it's pronounced, and Lloyd Smucker, those guys, they first voted against the bill and decided, 4 of them decided, that's Roy, Norman, Clyde, and Breachin voted present to go ahead and advance the bill. Smucker voted in favor of it. So now, of course, the Democrats are sitting here and complaining about the fact that this was done apparently in the dead of night, they say. Yeah, well, it was Sunday night. I agree. But anyway, the bill now goes and it now advances, and it goes to the floor that has to be worked out and, of course, voted on. So Chip Roy said in a statement, quote, "Tonight, after a great deal of work and engagement over the weekend, the Budget Committee advanced a reconciliation bill that lays the foundation for much-needed tax relief, border security, and important spending reductions and reforms. Importantly, the bill will now move Medicaid work requirements forward and reduces the availability of future subsidies under the Green New Scam." Now, they obviously, keep in mind, they obviously did some horse trading. And so, granted, it's not like the big, beautiful bill is perfect. Doesn't give everybody what they want, and that's typically the thing that happens in Congress. But anyway, the key here is that some things got put into place that that should be taken care of. Now, the bill by itself can be amended only by the Rules Committee, which will hold its hearing on that big, beautiful bill Wednesday at 1 a.m. House Republican leadership members have also said that they will refrain from sending lawmakers home for Memorial Day, which is their original target of getting this thing passed. Roy basically said, "I joined with 3 of my colleagues to vote present out of respect for the Republican conference and the president to move the bill forward. It gives us the opportunity to work together this week to get the job done in light of the fact our bond rating was dropped yet again due to historical fiscal mismanagement by both parties." He added, "This bill is a strong step forward, and I am proud of Chairman Arrington, the Speaker, and my colleagues for the work we did to make progress with the White House. But we have to do more to deliver for the American people." So, yeah, we will see the big, beautiful bill. Now, Pramila Jayapal, who is a moron of her own right, out of my lovely state of Washington, she was like, we don't even know what's in the bill. I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I actually replied this to her on X. Wasn't it Pelosi? And I know it was, but wasn't it Pelosi who basically said, well, we have to pass the bill in order to find out what's in it? Yeah. So, yep. Please go ahead, pass the bill so that we can find out what's in it. Definitely. Well, in speaking about the fiscal situation, U.S. wholesale inflation is now registered its largest drop since the pandemic. So, people have been talking about the economy being in a quote unquote stagflation. And one market expert said that if you are in the stagnation or stagflation camp, this data is not confirming your thesis. So wholesale inflation in April recorded the sharpest drop since the onset, signaling that the U.S. tariffs have yet to actually affect consumers. Last month, the PPI, Producer Price Index, a gauge of prices for goods and services paid by businesses early in the supply chain, fell by 0.5%, downward from the upwardly adjusted 0% recorded in March. The consensus forecast suggested that there was going to be a 2% increase. So that for those of you that can't do math very quickly and very well, that's about a 0.7% difference. So according to data released on May 15th, according to May 15th data released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, annual headline PPI inflation slowed sharply to 2.4% from 3.4%, slightly lower than the market estimate of 2.5%. So in other words, inflation seems to be cooling a little bit. Well, let's see what's going to happen. Now, economists monitor the PPI closely as it can signal pipeline inflation, meaning that because the PPI is essentially the start or the beginning of the consumer pipeline, all right, the production pipeline, manufacturing pipeline, if that goes up, that can indicate, and more often does, indicate prices going up on the farther end when you get to the consumer price index, the CPI, which is essentially where we're at. So, it also contributes to the personal consumption expenditure, PCE price index, which is the central bank's preferred inflation report. Now, the PCE inflation is expected to come in at 2.2%. according to Cleveland Fed's inflation nowcasting model estimate. And that's supposed to happen later this month. This comes after the Consumer Price Index of April revealed a softening in cost pressures compared to a year ago. Now, the annual inflation rate did slow to a lower than expected 2.3%, the lowest level since February of 2021. Core CPI inflation, which that's Consumer Price Index for those that don't know, was unchanged at 2.8%. So growth is also slowing, though, but disinflation remains intact. It's starting to drop off. And so, yeah, that's a good thing, but we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to watch it and wait until we see what happens with some of the tariff pressures come into play. All right. So this weekend, I played a little bit with Grok. Now, for those of you that don't know, Grok is the X AI, artificial intelligence. And, I've gotten into discussions with a few people on X who have used Grok because apparently now if you say as a part of a tweet thread, if you say @Grok and then ask your question, Grok will then answer within the tweet thread. And, it's some of the things that Grok comes back with is sort of questioning, in terms of some of the things that it talks about. For an example, one of the threads that this was in is this leftist moron who decided to use Grok to say, hey, which books have Republicans banned? And Grok immediately came back with, of course, plenty of places within red states where where these books have not been actually banned, but that they've been restricted in school. The distribution has been restricted in schools. Now, that, of course, made me kind of think, okay, well, all right, this guy, obviously, meaning Grok, being programmed, obviously is sort of left-leaning. It's not banned. If it were banned, you wouldn't be able to get it anywhere. So I was able to, of course, respond back to that and say, hey, Grok, what, if any, of those books are not available for purchase? And it, of course, came back, said, no, everything's available for purchase. In fact, here's several on Amazon. So again, the phraseology that's being used obviously has a bit of a bias in some way. Well, I'm not the only one that thinks that. This is really, really shocking here in the Populous Times. A Stanford study finds that AI models lean left in most instances. So this was a study by the Hoover Institution. So just so you know, the Hoover Institution is at Stanford University. And the Hoover Institution at Stanford University in California proves that that all AI language models are full of leftist bias. Well, gee, I wonder why. The AI models are programmed by mostly leftists in California. Anyway, recently, Apple's iPhone transcriber was exposed for replacing, now this I didn't know, replacing the word racist with Trump, highlighting the widespread nature of the problem. Now, what's really fascinating to me, people, is literally the adoption of AI and the trust that people have been putting into AI. It's almost as though they've transferred their trust of the mainstream media from the mainstream media over to AI. And are like sitting here saying, well, if AI said it, it's true. When in actuality, all AI does is just scour the internet for the most, shall we say, prevalent information, not necessarily the most correct, but the most prevalent information on any given topic, and then gives you a summary of what it has found. So this indicates that there was a reason as to why President Trump signed on January 23rd of this year the Removing Barriers to American Leadership in Artificial Intelligence, which aims to promote the development of AI systems, but he put it in there where he said that the AI systems need to be free from ideological bias or engineered social agendas. So the Hoover Institute tested numerous AI models on 30 topics, including defunding the police, schools, gun control, transgenderism, Europe, Russia, and tariffs, and analyzed the 180,126 responses. We asked which one of these is more biased, are they both biased, or neither biased, and then we asked the direction of the bias. And it's so that enables us to calculate a number of interesting things, I think, including the share of responses from a particular model that's biased, and then the direction of the bias. So Grimmer found, and this is Stanford Professor Justin Grimmer, by the way, found that all tested AI models lean toward the left, including Grok. Doesn't really surprise me any there. OpenAI's model, which is the most popular, was also the most biased. The most slanted to the left was OpenAI. Yeah. Okay. So OpenAI's model, according to the study, had a negative 0.17 with 27 topics leaning toward the Democrat Party, with 3 being neutral. Google's Gemini model also had a leftist bias slant of negative 0.02, with 6 topics leaning toward the left and 3 towards the right, with 21 neutral. So Google's Gemini seems to be closer to the neutral than any of the other AIs that are out there. So interestingly, the researchers found that when an AI model was confronted with the fact that its responses were biased, it would then provide a more neutral response. They basically said that when we tell it to be neutral, the models produce responses that can have more ambivalent type terms and are perceived to be more neutral, but they can't then do the coding. They can't assess bias in the same way that our respondents could. So, yeah. Don't trust AI, folks. AI is still way too brand new, and something that we shouldn't take as gospel for any of this. Although I am seeing more and more people who are using X, and they're basically saying they're using Grok on X, and they're basically saying, well, Grok says it. See. Yeah, sorry, but no. Again, the AI is all it's doing is it's essentially scouring for that topic, scouring the web for that topic, and then compacting it all together and giving you a summary of what it found, which more often than not is going to have a left-leaning slant. Anyway. All right, let's see. Last little thing here. So the Supreme Court has given Trump a win, even though they gave him sort of a loss, half loss in the last time. But the Supreme Court has decided today, and it has granted President Trump's request to remove the legal protections for the Venezuelan nationals, opening them up to potential deportation. Now, the decision came in a brief order today. It noted that the order was without prejudice, meaning that they can't be challenged again. Justice Jackson would have denied the administration's request, according to the order. Yeah. That's nothing really surprising. But all of this based on those 300,000 Venezuelan nationals that apparently were already said, well, you have to give them due process. Anyway, whatever. Oh. Okay. I'm just going to point this out. If you guys do that, meaning this is something they're talking on Rumble about getting a Facebook group with a specific name. I'm not going to say it over the air, but a specific name. But if you do that, I would appreciate a admin invite. Just saying. Anyway, there you go. Oh. All right, 3 Chevy. Email me and we'll figure it out. Okay. Well, that is it for me for this evening, folks. I think we've covered enough. There's still a lot more that's out there, but things are heating up, people. Well, we've passed the 100-day mark and we're getting further and further for that. So anyway, all right, folks, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. It is free, and once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up and make sure you hit that green follow button on the American Perspective channel to make sure that you get notified every time I go live. I promise, guys, I won't screw with it. I've got enough on my plate already. It just anyway. Also, too, make sure that before you take off, you hit those thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't really care, one way or the other. But definitely give me some kind of feedback, because I do appreciate it across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.